So people love this app, this checklist inspection app. And perhaps when you see it, you think to yourself, oh, there's an idea for an app that I need to write. Or you get some ideas to implement in an existing app that you've built. Okay. So I'm going to go back to design mode and sort of give you a tour of this app. Now, by the way, if you're a Spanish speaker, I did release a brand new video this morning that goes through this app. With my voice dubbed with Spanish. I don't I don't know Spanish that well, but if you watch that video, you might think that I do. So, okay, so this is the main home screen of the checklist inspection app. And I'm just going to click on the different screens. So this is a screen to manage customers. And of course, customers have cars. And in order to see the cars, you need to select a customer here. Let's see what Jane Doe has here. Okay, so she's a Ford Mustang. And what I'm going to be doing this next week is I'm going to be conducting a workshop where we'll be rebuilding this app. I'll call it the Checklist Inspection App version 2.0. And we'll be using the new Power Apps template that we've been building. So this is a screen where you can start a new inspection. The screen shows the current inspection. So as long as one has been loaded in memory, has been selected, you could come here and actually look at one. So this is a screen after an inspection has been completed. And this is a listing of inspections here. So let's say this stage of the inspection has occurred. So there's this company installs law enforcement equipment in vehicles. And they need to do an inspection before they install the equipment and then after. Okay, so that sort of explains the different stages within the workflow that this application manages. So if I were to click on edit here, and guys, this is one of my first apps that I wrote. So please don't judge me on using forms or any other design calls. We're going to actually make a much better version of this this next Friday. So here we go. This is that app. Now, of course, I did incorporate a back button here. What other type of screens do we have in here? Well, this is an admin screen where you could go and manage the staff. Okay. And let's go back and we can manage the question categories. Okay. So you notice all these different categories. Well, those are, if I go into, I'll go into this record right here. You'll notice we have all these tabs at the top. Well, those are the categories. Yeah. So we have that. Let's see, what else do we have here? So those are the categories. This is the screen in which the application administrator can go in here, select a category, and they can add, edit, delete questions. Okay. And the finalization success screen, sort of self-explanatory there. Okay, so that's just a really brief overview. If you want to check out I think it might be like a 9 or 12-minute video. It's one of my more popular videos. If you search on YouTube for Darren inspection checklist, you'll find it. It'll come right up. Okay. So what are all the data sources that I use in this application? Well, first of all, you do notice I am using SharePoint, okay? And most of you do use SharePoint because of lack of premium licensing, or perhaps you really like SharePoint. You're very familiar with it, and you don't have to deal with a learning curve. Whatever the reason is, I'm going to stick with SharePoint. Now, Just yesterday, we had a workshop where we went through and we created Power Automate flows that would create a SharePoint site, create a SharePoint list, and create fields for those lists. So a lot of times people will purchase my Ultimate Jumpstart Kit, which is my template that I use for starting all my applications with, and they get a copy of this. Now, they'll if I bring up an example here. So this is another tenant, and I was going to demonstrate it here in this tenant, in this environment here, but you notice that no data comes up. So if I go home, yeah, there's nothing there. There's no inspections. Okay, that's interesting. The menu's not working. Oh, look, we have errors. Okay. Yeah. That's because this tenant doesn't have the SharePoint list created. In fact, if I go in here and say try to edit data, what happens? It's going to tell me, as anyone else would try to install and use this, is that, hey, you're in the wrong tenant. You don't have access to those SharePoint lists. Okay. So what we did yesterday in that workshop, I sort of want to show you. This was my favorite workshop that we've conducted so far, dynamic creating data sources, and we focused on SharePoint. Okay. Create data sources dynamically with Power Automate, but triggering them by or through Power Apps. We'll start with SharePoint, and this was an idea to go on and do the same with Dataverse or SQL Server, but something that you may realize with Dataverse is if you're trying to move things around and deploy them, you can add your Dataverse tables and schema into a solution package. So it's really not that big of a deal. And with SQL Server, what you can do is just generate a script and just run it on the destination or the target server, and it creates everything for you. So SharePoint, I feel, is really lacking in the way, or should I say the ease of, copying a list from one place to another, and all the, this creating a new site and creating lists there, and then all the columns, which is what you would need to do if you're trying to recreate this application that I'm demonstrating here. And something that you could do is create an app where you can keep track of all your database schemas within a Power Apps application. So let me show you an example here. Hopefully it's loaded up. Okay. So this is a new template that I've been building in the Power Apps template group within school, which is this link right here. If you want to go there and check that out. And so we've been building onto that, and we used it yesterday. So this is a screen that I created. And look at this. I can type in, not defaults to the current user's email. So if I were to create this SharePoint site, it would set me as the owner of the site. Then this would be the URL. Okay, so if I go over to my SharePoint list, you see that it is actually Superpower Labs. So if I were to go in here and paste that, and we could create a new site. Let's call it Checklist and Inspection. And I might even say Power App. I don't know. Checklist Inspection App. Is intended to be used as a data source. Yeah, hello, Nick and Sadiq. The link. So there should be links in the video description below. I just shared the link. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so I'm using Restream, and apparently I cannot share the link there. If you go over to my YouTube channel, you can see that. Let me. Gee whiz. The, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will share that link whenever we're done here and make sure that's over in LinkedIn so you guys have access to that. So it's easy to get to that. All right, so Nick says, by the way, to do all this, do you have your own subscription of Power Apps license, or do you use the developer account? I do buy my own licenses. Um, Now I have developer environments within those, but in order to set up a new tenant, it only costs $6 a month. So let me show you something that's I believe is really interesting. So I have another school community called the Microsoft Stack. I'm going to share that link here. And if you go over to Classroom and you want to set up your own tenant, this goes through all the steps. The domain setup, setting up the tenant. I even have like a little 20-minute orientation showing you your new tenant after you set it up, the things that you want to look at and keep in mind and configure. I even show how to set up a new Azure account, creating a new Azure SQL database, and then setting up and using Azure DevOps. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Now that is completely free. So you just go over to the Microsoft Stack, join, and if you go over to the Classroom tab, you'll see those. Okay. All right. All right. And this template that I'm using here, now you notice there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of screens, and it's an application template. Yeah, you could set up sign up for like a trial. If you go to powerapps.com, there's probably a link there that says get started for free. I do know that they've changed how those are being provided if they can I just know they changed the policy on that. But I think paying $6 a month is very much worth it considering you get what a terabyte of OneDrive space, you get access to SharePoint and all the other stuff that's included in a business basic account. So I would encourage people to do that. And pretty much what I show in this Microsoft tenant setup. Okay. Now I do want to share with you guys, if you want to see all of the lists that this application uses. Okay, I'm trying to scroll down here. Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 SharePoint lists or database tables. And then for each of those, I did a screenshot of all these. So if you purchase the Jumpstart kit, you got access to this, this application, the MS app file. You'll need to know that you need to create all this. Now, if you guys sign up for the workshop for this coming Friday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create all the Power Automate flows or whatever code that needs to create all this stuff automatically for you. Yeah. All right. So let me also show you my diagram here. So let's go into presentation mode here. Okay. And you see that we have customers, we have staff, then we have cars. And to be honest, there really should be a relationship between a customer and a car. And I don't think I have all the columns in there. Now, I created this diagram because I have other YouTube videos that go into this app more thoroughly. you know? And I just thought it'd be a good idea. People are so interested in this application that I sort of want to rebuild it with the new template and create it, in my opinion, much, much better than the original one that I created. And you see that we've got, okay, so these are the inspections. This is the heart of the application. And then there are a set of questions that belong to categories. And then when a staff member comes and starts an inspection, they need to answer all these questions. And that's what that table's for. All right, I guess I need to hit cancel there. All right. So I'm going to go back in here. And so I want to create a new SharePoint site. Be used as a data source with lists for the checklist inspection app version 2.0. Okay. And I have some code in here that will automatically sort of construct what the new site URL should be. Okay. And I give a user the opportunity to change this. Now, when I say user, chances are it's you guys. So if you get this template here, you notice that I called this screen dev, create new site. Okay. So this is really for developers. So if you don't have that site, you could just fill this stuff out and hit the button. And let's see what happens here. I'm going to click on create site. Hopefully there's no errors. And I believe I do have a launch after that. And it should take me right to the site. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. And so this is the root of the site. And, you know, my flow sets it up with a very empty, clean slate, which I really like. Because what you may notice, if I bring up SharePoint here, if I create a new site and I go in here and I've got to pick from one of these templates, and none of them are completely blank. They already have stuff in there. I usually go with standard team when I create a new one. And then you could have some for your organization. Okay. So if you create the most basic one, okay, let me show you what this looks like. Darren's new SP site. Okay, and it's fine with that. And I'll set it up for public. I'll create the site, add the members, so we'll have Darren. I guess he's the boss. And I'll make him the owner of that. See all these different steps we could just automate with a single click of the button, as long as that information's filled out, of course. But yeah, I had an incredible amount of fun building out those flows. Let me click on finish. Okay, let it all load up. See what it gives me? I like pristine blank slates. So I'm going to exit out of that one. Now this one is a fresh new one. Now what's in here? I'm going to click on site contents. Okay, now we do have a few things in here, like a document library. You almost expect that to be in any SharePoint list, right? Okay. So that has been created. Now, I do have flows that will create lists, and sometimes I have problems actually getting Power Apps to recognize that they're out there. Okay. Let me see. We got, oh, here we go. Create SharePoint list. Okay. And let's add a new one. We've got create SharePoint field. All right. So after we create these things for this particular one, if they're all created, what I would want to do is rip out all these SharePoint lists here because I don't have access to something in another tenant, remove them all, and then go into that site and add them all. And then we wouldn't have any errors. All right, so I'm going to go back over here. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this thing invisible. I was just using that for troubleshooting, so I don't need that anymore. Okay. And let's see what other type of things do we have here. So I want to create a new screen, and I'm going to call this dev create sp list. All right. And let's go over to our flows here and look what I have. Here's a create SharePoint list. I'm going to go and edit. And what you'll notice is very basic. It's very easy and straightforward to create things in SharePoint. Look at this, just two connectors. I mean, this is the trigger calling from Power Apps. And all the magic happens here. Now, I do pass in a SharePoint site URL. And then we say what we want our name to be. So this is a, what do you call this? A step, a connector for SharePoint. Notice that it's not a premium connector. That's awesome, huh? And if you guys wanted to create something like this, I mean, I could, let me copy this out here. That's what I use for the headers, and it looks like JSON data. Here's the URI. Paste that. And notice I've got this set to post. Now with HTTP, it stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And within the protocol, it's been defined. These are the different operations that you have. You've got a get. So whenever you use a browser to go get an HTML page off of a web server, you're using, or the browser uses HTTP, that protocol, to go and get the web document, an HTML file or whatever thing that you're trying to request. Might be the homepage of a website. So a lot of times the browser will be using gets, and then you've got a post. Now, I'm not an expert in HTTP. If you want to, you can go out to the W3 website where they define all the standards for the web, and you can read all the documentation. But notice I've got post here. So post is whenever you're posting information, or you might think of submitting data to the web server. And this is the URI that is needed. Okay, now what this is, these are the REST APIs, REST. Now that's an acronym. If you go Google that, you'll find out what that stands for. I don't remember that off the top of my head. Okay, these are the headers, and this is the body, okay, of that post to the web server. And how does it know where to post this to? Well, I provided it here. It's passed in this URL that my Power Apps application will pass that into. Okay, so that's what the Power Automate does there. Now I'm going to go back over here, and we have this screen called Dev Create SharePoint List. And what I want to do is I'm going to bring over a text input. And for now, I really like the classic ones. I'm hoping eventually the modern controls will have all the features the classic ones have. And I believe that will happen relatively soon, because they've been doing that up since they introduced the modern controls. So I'm going to do some padding here. And what I want in here are all the list names to be created. Okay. Now, what are all the list names? Well, I have it right here. Okay. So I need to type cars, enter customers, so on and so forth. And I could call that flow and it will go through and create all these. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and say open image in new tab. I'm going to drag this up to a different screen. And check this out. I might actually type it up here rather than typing it directly in here, because if I ever close down the app, I still want that information to be there. Okay, so let me go full screen and let me zoom in here a little bit. Make it easier for everyone to see the code. And okay. First one is cars. And be sure to put carriage returns in there. Customers, because we'll rely on that. Inspection. Also, make sure you spell everything right, because with SharePoint lists and columns, you don't want to, and even in creating sites, you don't want to misspell things, because a lot of times things are created in a certain way and they sort of stick around, like the misspelling, even though you correct it. So we got inspection answers, we have inspection categories, we have inspection questions, inspections, we have staff. Okay. And those are all of them. So I could take out that last carriage return. Okay. And let's make this bigger, maybe like 24. That looks good. And a font that I like to use. Hopefully you guys can't hear my toddler throwing a fit outside my door. I need to go find the font. Where is the font? The font's right here. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to use the app font. What I want to do is say font. There we go. And I'm going to be looking for something like Career New that is monospaced. Okay. And you'll see that might be the only monospaced font that we have accessible to here. And I like to make it maybe semi-bold like that. Makes me feel like I'm working with code. All right, so there that is. And now we can go, oh, let's move that up. I've made this template to be very responsive and take up whatever screen real estate I have. So I have to build that with that feature in mind there. Okay, so there's all the information, and let's add a button. And I'm getting to trust the modern button control. And I think I'll move this over here. And perhaps this doesn't need to be so wide. And what I'll say here is create these lists. And let's make the width be something like 300 or 250 or 200. That looks good. I think what I'll do is I'll set this up. So the Y, let's make that 40. Let's make the X to be 40. And for the height, let's say parent.height, and then we'll subtract our self's Y times 2. And that should bring it up a little bit. Yeah, it finally did it. Okay. And then for this button here, what I'm going to do for the X, I like to make all the positioning dynamic. Oh, wow. Ephraim, good morning from Del Rey Beach, Florida. So I'm in Orlando. So yeah, nice to meet you here over this format. Now I'm not familiar with Del Rey. I'm very familiar with Deltona, Daytona. Um, so for all I know, you might be down there by Miami or Tampa or something. But thanks for joining. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do here on the X is I'm going to look at this. We should probably give this a meaningful name. TXT create SharePoint lists. Okay, now that's a recommended best practice set by Microsoft. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the reference to that. And now this button should be named button create SharePoint lists. And for the X, I'm going to reference the TXT, whatever it was called. There it is. And I want to look at its X, and I want to add its width. Then I'm going to subtract self.width. And then I'm also going to subtract 15. Does that look right? That looks good. And then for the Y, I'm going to be doing something very similar. And you might think, what are you doing all this for, Darren? Well, you'll see here in a moment. And it's important for responsive design in general, in the spirit of responsive design. I'm not using responsive containers here, but you see I'm looking at, okay, the Y, the height. You notice before when I ran it, the button was off the screen. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this. So if I save this and run this, it doesn't matter how big or small. Now the width of this thing needs to be changed. Okay, now look at this. Boom. Doesn't that look nice? All right, so what should we do here? We should, yeah, look at the width here, and we're going to say parent.width. We'll subtract self.x multiplied by 2. Look at that. I think that looks great. I love this new template that we've been building together here. Let's turn it on its side. So guys, this is a responsive app without using responsive container, at least the screen. Okay. Okay. Now, we may not want to have such huge fonts because I saw that looked a little weird. Okay, there we go. This could work just fine. All right. Now, something that I should do, we know that if we were to call this flow, create SharePoint list, let's work with that here. I'm going to click on that button, and I'm going to go to advanced on this right pane here. I'm going to go into InSelect, and what I'm going to say here is create SharePoint list.run. Okay. If you have a lot of controls on the screen, does using formulas to calculate the X and Y for each control impact the performance compared to using vertical and horizontal containers? I don't have enough data to answer that question. I will tell you this. If you, I'm going to bring your comment back up and move me to the side. Have you ever looked at a responsive design Power Apps? Have you noticed how many nested containers they have or you have to put in to make it all work? Ugh. That's how I feel about that. So you can do a little bit of each. Okay. So for example, let me show you this application template that I have here. Okay. It is responsive. Okay. There's the menu. Let's make this something like this. Okay. There we go.
And you see we got a menu here, and we can go, let me show you the profile update screen. So we added this to the template so that users, when the first time they come in here, they can update their photo, they can put in their title and change their information within Intra, which is previously referred to as Azure AD. Okay. And then we've got a template list and an edit screen. Look at that. Now I've got one of these screens with the data. So if I go down here and say version info, okay, so this is another feature that we added into the template, okay, and it does not use forms. For the most part, I don't use forms for anything unless it's just something really quick, and I'm the only person using the screen. So, I mean, look at all these nested containers, all these things that you have to do to make it just right. And I've heard, people sort of like complain or vent like, yeah, this is responsive design within and guys, I'm gonna be upfront with you. I've probably said it before, but I don't like front end development. I've done it. I've worked with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but I prefer things that are very predictable. Okay, so I really like C sharp or server side. I mean, I'm sure I would like Python if I learned it, but JavaScript seems like a very sloppy language. HTML seems like a sloppy it's a markup language. But not all markup languages are sloppy, but you got all these browsers that, and for years, like my whole career, it's all been about these browser wars. This browser renders it this way, this browser, and I think we've come a long way. Let's say the browser industry, and everybody decided we don't like Internet Explorer, you know. So anyway, yeah. Nice responsive. Yeah, very cool. And then Justin says, I haven't, but I figure they are all just like divs. Okay, so let me go into a little bit more showing you what this is like. So whenever you have containers to add, you type in container and you've got horizontal. So this is a basic container. It's not necessarily responsive. Now you'll use these in responsive Power Apps applications. But if you want it to be responsive, you say horizontal or vertical. Now, if you want your controls to go across, of course, you're going to use horizontal. If you want the controls to go down, use vertical. Okay, so let's look at this screen. We have this container here, which contains everything, and it goes down. Okay, and I've just got two containers. Now I'm going to select the first container, and doesn't it's not really highlighting it, but what you'll notice is I've got this header bar in there. Okay, and then over here, this is everything down below. And you drill into that. Look at this. We have, well, there's a little container for our menu there, and we have a vertical container. Like maybe we wanted like two buttons at the bottom before the menu was done. You have like two more things. We could add them there and put them at the bottom. And then on the right side, okay, see, I clicked on this and it highlighted this. If I click on this, it puts a little border around this one. Now, what's inside this one? More containers. So you have the left side, which has another container. Now, this isn't just a regular old container. Okay. And then there's a gallery that holds the data or displays or renders the data. And then this one, this is this container. And inside that container, I've got even more containers. So if we're talking about raw control count or the code to position things, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would put my bet on if you just had code to move things around, that might be a more efficient way. Now, whether it's I like this global, moving things around like I do. I learned that a long time ago with Visual Basic over 20 years ago. So I'm very familiar. I find it very easy and it just makes sense. Now, something I should demonstrate here. Let me get you guys something that you might like. And if you're interested in knowing about this, I I cover it very thoroughly and in very simple terms in my personal pocket coach program. So what that is, if you sign up for the personal pocket coaching, you'll have a video for every day of the year. So this year, you will end up getting 366 because this year was a leap year. Although people in IT are threatening to take away 2 days because of all this cyber security incident that happened yesterday, where a lot of companies were down. Yeah. So let me find. Yeah, here we go. I and I assure you, this is worth the wait that I'm taking up here. Okay, so if I go down here and I make this full screen, I'm going to mute it. Look what I do here. I'm going to make myself smaller. This video takes you through and shows you, okay, this is the X, this is the Y of the, and then it's a container with a border. And if you want to know what the right side is, you take the X and you add the width, and then you get that. And you see these little sliders on the sides? That changes the X and the Y of this container here. Okay. So if I were to make sure it's running and I want to show you how see how I'm moving the sliders. And then what I wanted to do is show how to do collision detection to know if one thing is touching something else. Okay. So I got this little bitty label here. That's a no-go zone. I have another one over here. And I go into how you would do that, um, and if you move it around, you notice that the screen is white unless you hit one of these no-go zones, and then you're back in the pink and all that stuff. And I go over all the code. Okay. So I just thought I'd let you guys know about that. That is available. Okay. Okay. So we got all of these lists here, and here's the button. And we're going to run the SharePoint list. Now, what I like to do whenever I call a Power Automate flow, if I can get in here, I like to do an update context, which is a way of creating local variables. And I'm going to say LOC, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to give it the name of that prefix with the LOC. And then at the bottom now, I'll do the curly brace and the all this stuff. Okay, now what's going on? Go. Okay. And of course, we have an error here. And Justin says, does this account for border? I believe border size adds the control size, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look that up. I'd have to try it out because I have that project set up and I could go look at that and find that out. But if I had to take a guess, I would say no. Although I mean, I agree with your reasoning. Border size adds to the control size. Um, Also realize that these containers can actually have a drop shadow too. Does that add to it? I know that it doesn't, because whenever I use a container with a drop shadow, I get things that are covering up the shadow and it looks weird. All right, so we're going to call this function, this flow, and let's find out. If I hit a comma, sometimes you'll get, yeah, look at this. Sometimes we'll get information that we need to pass in here. Now it just says text and text one. I really don't like that. I'm going to hit F11 and get out of full screen mode, and I am going to go over to our flow. Now, look at this. We've got SP site URL. So it's named, So why is it calling it text? So, I mean, it is a text type, but why doesn't it allow me, to name these parameters. So when I'm calling it in Power Apps, it would actually tell me. Okay, so it's a little tricky. A comma within parentheses, you're calling a function, you know, text and text one. Okay, so text is going to be, I'm sure, the SharePoint site. Let me get the URL to that real quick. And it is this one. Okay. And what I'm going to do here, zoom out a little bit. It's a little bit much. All right. And if you're too zoomed in or too zoomed out, you hit Control 0 and it will do that. That's nice. Now, perhaps these lists, we want to create them based on a new SharePoint site that we created. Okay. So here we go. There's the new site URL. Okay. Now, when we called this, we launch. Okay. And what we could do is we could navigate over to a new screen. And let's go down here. Let's click on this one, get the name of that. And what's the screen 3 for? Oh, this is one of my accelerator students asked how to take attachments and email them. And this is a little gallery that shows, if there were images, they'll show them there. But if you get an attachment control from a form and copy it over to a screen, you can have code here. This is the code. If you want to send out an email with a bunch of attachments that you have attached within Power Apps, that's the code if you want it. Okay. And of course, if you're a part of our school community, let me bring the right one up here because I run 5. This one's free. This is all about learning Power Apps. So if I click on that, there should be a link in the video description to get on the newsletter and to be added in this. And also you get a free crash course for Power Apps. Okay. And this is free. This is free. This is free. This is free. So just to let you know about all these, there's a lot of resources. And really the biggest thing is you go in here and there's 1,400 of you already in here. You ask a question and either myself, my staff, or the fellow members will answer. Okay. Okay, so here's a good one. So Justin says, I use peak code of the trigger to figure out the input names in that situation. Now, you got to tell me more about that. Okay. Peak code. Peak code. Where? Oh. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I'm not really an expert in Power Automate. I mean, I've created flows, but there's a lot that I don't know. Okay, schema object, site URL string. Can we change this? No, can't. Now here's a question. If I go to the new designer, click in trigger. In trigger. In trigger. I don't know. But I'm very interested, Justin. Maybe we're talking about in here, maybe in our Power Automate flows. Okay, so let's say SharePoint list. Do we have any type of peak? No. We could edit it here. Yeah. So let me know. I'd love to know what I'm missing or how I can rename these because I would love to have them show up here. Okay. Now the new page I was trying to go to is this one. Make sure I've got that on the clipboard. And then I'm going to go back over to SharePoint site. I'm going to move this down one. And in the navigate, what I want to do is I want to go to that screen. No, that's not the right one. Do I have anything on the clipboard? Yes, I do. Okay. Now here's something that would be useful. We have the new SharePoint site, the new URL right here. Okay. So when we do a navigate, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. This is like pretty zoomed in. Okay. So I'll do navigate here. When I talk a lot, I get parched. At the top right of the trigger of the flow. Okay, let's take a look at that. The top right of the trigger of the flow, which would be here. But no, there's no way to change. Okay. Interesting. We do have settings. What's in here? Okay. I don't think that's going to allow me to change it. And you said there's no way to change it. So now I'm curious if we download this flow as a zip and we unzip the file and got in there and did a search for text one or text and then text one or whatever, text two, and we changed it there and then we zipped it back up and then uploaded it, that would be sort of cool. I get really excited about code generators too. So I wouldn't put it past me. Create a Power Apps app to generate a Power Automate flow as a zip, put it in your OneDrive or wherever so you can download it, or I could just email it directly from Power Apps, I guess. Okay, so we've got these two arguments. So the SharePoint site URL, and then we have the list name. Now, on this particular screen, we just created a new site. So it's probably a prime time to start creating lists. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we have screen transitions. What's your favorite one? Well, you know what? I should define that application wide. If I go into app formulas, oh my goodness, get out of there. Let me try to zoom out a little bit more. There we go. And let's go through here. So we've got all kinds of good stuff in the app formulas, and we're not using app on start. In fact, if you notice, that thing will stop popping up. There is no on start here, no on start at all. And it's my personal belief. It's a hunch. I have no insider information from Microsoft on this. I believe that eventually they're going to take away that on start. Okay. If you go into settings, go into updates, and you can do a search for on start. Look, they initially took away our ability to navigate within the on start because they created the app start screen for us to use. So that really took away the need for doing navigations or calling a navigate function within the app dot on start. But you could turn it on and still have that. Now, I think what you've got to do is you got to turn this on. Okay. Now look at this. It's retired. Eventually it's going to go away. Eventually you're not going to be able to do that. Okay. So I'm going to click close. I've got app. Oh my goodness. Now I don't have on start. Maybe I got to reload it. But I don't plan on going back and using app on start because there's I don't know if you'd call it a better way. We do have app formulas. But you can't put any imperative code in there. Okay. So I'm going to take that. I wonder if I turn that on, if it would give me the app on start again. I'm just trying to answer some questions maybe that are in your mind, and that still doesn't give me back. I think there was a setting initially when I created this template. I said, nope, I don't want on start. And Let's see, start. Is there anything that says start? Yeah, they're just these two things. So I'm going to take that out. Okay. Now, the reason why I went to the app formulas was because I want to create a global constant. Okay. So look at this. We got FX app constants. Okay. Let's go in here and let's create a app screen. I think I'm just going to call it screen transition. Okay. I think I might want to indent this over to give us more space. And what we'll say here is screen. You know what? We need a comma at the end there. Otherwise, it's just not going to help us out at all. Okay. What's your favorite transition? For the longest time, I used fade. I'm starting to like cover. Okay. So I'm going to use that. So now, whenever I call navigate, here's such an example. The second parameter navigate is the transition. So I'm going to say screen transition, and it will use whatever we define there. So what's great about this, you could have 50 different navigate function calls within your app, and every single one of them could have a different value for screen transition. Okay. Or perhaps not even provided. So if you wanted to be consistent, this allows for consistency. I mean, you could be consistent. Just remember that it's always the same one and type it in, you know. But what if you needed to change it application wide all at once? Well, if you do it the way that I just showed you, you would have that. So make full use of your app formulas. Okay. Now, there's a screen transition, but what I want to do is I want to pass over uh, pass parameters into that screen. Now, how do we do that? Well, you use this curly brace, and you're pretty much doing what effectively is a update context for that screen. So we're actually defining local variables for the screen we're going to here as we're navigating over there. So I'm going to say LOC, and we're going to call this SharePoint site URL. Now, what do we want to put in there? This thing right here. Now, I'm gonna show you one of my tricks. You see that I've selected this line of code. So if you have code selected, you can literally just drag this down and it will move the code. But I don't want to move it. I want to copy it. So I'm going to hold down Control, and then I'm going to drag it. Boom. No extra charge, guys. All right, so we've got that. And it will go to that other screen. Okay, now look at this. I'm going to copy that. And now I'm going to go over. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to copy and paste this button. I don't want to recreate the site. Okay, so I'm going to take all that out. But and in fact, I don't even want to launch the SharePoint site. I just want to navigate. We'll say create lists. Okay. So if it's already been created, the user will click on this, or the developer will. I'll go over to that, do the screen transition. So we'll see what that cover does. And then what we have, let's see here. Yeah, whatever they typed in there, it's going to go over. Okay. I'm going to run this. I'll do that. Okay, this does not look good. If I run this again, what's going on? Window size. Okay. Canvas size. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so we're over here. And when we create the list, as you guys know, the first parameter is um, the site. So I'm going to say LOC, and there's the SharePoint site URL. Now, what's the name of the list? I think right now I'm just going to create a blank list. I'm going to just call it blank. And I'm just going to do that to test it, because after we know it works, what we want to do is do a for all on all these and create all of them with a loop. Okay, so I'm going to run this. And you know what would be nice over here in my flow is if we add a new step and we say Power Apps, and I want to respond to the Power App. I'm going to add an output, and it's going to be text. And what I'm going to say is list settings URL. Now, how am I going to get at this? Well, if I go down here, let's see what type of dynamic data we have. Well, we do have the SharePoint site URL. Okay, we have that. Let's go over to SharePoint here for a moment. And I'm going to go to site contents, click on new list. Okay, that was odd. I'm going to click on new list. All right, so I'm going to go with a blank list. And I'm going to call this delete me. I just want to test it out. I'll delete it. Okay, there we go. So this is the list. And what's weird, it doesn't even show me the whole thing. That's odd. Now, if I click on the sprocket here in the upper right corner, and I go into list settings, this is where I want to take people after, a list has been created. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff in here. It almost looks like a GUID or something. Huh. So we would need to get at, and I think the percent sevens might be, I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Might be a single quote or something. But there's a GUID. So how do we find the GUID of a newly created SharePoint list? Interesting. I'm going to create a new step here. And I'm going to type in SharePoint. Let's look and see what type of things we have available to us. And let's say get list. That would be nice. Get attachments. Get file, get files, get item. List folder, move file. Get folder. Okay, this is great, Ben. Yeah, thanks, man. It's a GUID with a URL encoded curly braces. Okay, thank you for that. Also, good afternoon. Yeah, from cloudy England. Um, So Ben, if you happen to know this, please let me know. I'm trying to get at dynamically, when a list is created by this step up here, how do we get at that GUID? Here's get lists. Okay, that might be good. I just need one of them though. Okay, so I'm gonna use this one. Okay, until I know better. Now, what's the site address? Right there. I'm gonna enter a custom value, and there's the SharePoint site URL. Okay, that's gonna give me all of them. All right. Oh boy, I feel like I need a loop. And I believe a loop is in that control type of thing there. Well, that we got do until. Yeah, let's click on control. And we have I'm thinking about going with this one here. Do until. Yeah, let's use this one here. Select an output from previous steps. Okay, so that would be the get lists. So I'm going to go with the name of the table. No, I need. The list of tables. Well, I'm going to be looking for the name of it. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an item. And I need to do like an if. I need to check something out here. Let's see, control. Let's do a switch where it equals. Where's all my dynamic stuff that I had before? Case switch. Okay, here we go. We're going to go look at the name where it equals. How do I go get that? I need to get at the list name. Okay, so I'm going to try to select that. Gee whiz. I want to try to select both of them. How about that? Copy. I'm going to paste them there. I don't know if that's going to work. I feel like there should be a better way of doing this. Okay. Now it just feels like, look at this. Here's the web address. I mean, we could easily probably provide that. That's almost as good, right? Yeah, it takes me right to the site. Okay. Now, eventually, I'd like to know how to do all this stuff. But for right now, I think I'm going to. Man, I wish I could just get at one of them easily without having to loop through them all. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Get lists. And yeah. I think I'm going to leave it in there to remind me that eventually I want to do that. But down here, I'm going to paste this in. And what we have, we have the URL. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to say the SharePoint site URL. Now, let's go look back at our app. When we go back to when we provide the full thing here, do we have a slash at the end? And we do. So we should expect it to be there. Okay. So I'm going to leave that little slash in there. Huh. Sites, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's the URL to the whole thing. So we'll say lists. It's the delete me that we need to deal with. I need to do it in the flow. Okay. That right there, the the list name should go there. Okay. And that will return the list setting URL. Okay. I'm going to hit save. All right. Super excited. All right, we're going to run that. We're going to give it the SharePoint site URL. And apparently we're going to create a blank list. So I'm going to go back over here to make sure. I think I am going to put a little label here showing me what the parameter being passed in was. So there is the URL. Okay. So as you can see, that's what it is. Checklist inspection app. You guys ready? Am I the only one that crosses their fingers when we run code? What I sort of want to do when I click on this, I want to launch. Now, how are we going to get the URL from that flow? Well, you notice that I set up an update context with a local variable to catch that. Okay, so it's there. So I'm going to copy, paste it there. I'm going to say doesn't have any return types. Why is that? Well, I probably need to go over to the Power Automate flows here where we create a list, and we probably need to refresh that. There we go. Now let's see what we have. Oh, there we go. Let's try this out. There's the champagne bubbles. Oh, okay. Now look at our URL here. Do we see anything that's messed up? And I do. Do you see right before the word sites, there's a double. And there's a double right before the name. And there also needs to be a / after blank. Okay. So I'm going to hit escape there. Let's go back here. And what we need here is a / Okay, but right before, yeah, we actually have 2 /. Okay, taking that out. And where was I seeing it? Oh, it was here. Okay. right before sites. Okay. Yeah, we need to take that out. Okay, so now it should give us what we need. And then I'm going to go and now I doubt, was it created? It did create it. It just returned the wrong thing. DCS 899. Hello to you. Thanks for joining, guys. Um, all right, so it created it. So I need to create to test things out over here in Power Apps. Probably need to, since I updated my flow. I'm going to refresh that, and then over here, I'm going to call it blank 2. Okay, boom. What did I do now? Okay, what if we sites? Oh, it's repeating stuff. Okay, so I got sites. Boom. So that should be there, and then we have it again. Okay. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, boom. Take that out because that's already in the URL. All right. So, Marius, welcome. Now, I can't, we've been going live for over an hour. Now, what I'd recommend, if you'd like, is there's a little button within YouTube, the playhead, and you just go all the way to the beginning and then play me at 2x speed. And then eventually you'll catch up. But just to let you know, we are creating SharePoint lists dynamically. And the idea is we're recreating the checklist inspection app. So that will be the workshop this next Friday, recreating the this app that a lot of people like. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Because okay, so you're saying I may not need lists. Okay. Now let me go back over and get rid of that guy. And I'll go into one of these. And you see up here at the top, I got sites. Okay, so and then we have lists, blank, all items. So that's really what needs to be in there. There's the list name. Okay, I think that is it. That should work. Okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change this number like 3. And let's try this. Yeah. There we go. All right. Fantastic. All right. So what I want to do is I want to create all these. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, create SharePoint list. So I'm going to grab that. And within this button here, instead of things being hard-coded, like this right here, let's create a collection by doing a for all. Now, I really don't like to create with like clear collect, create one, because it becomes a global variable. And I try to stay away from global variables as much as I can. A lot of times they introduce bugs, by mistakes that you might make by not naming something right. You might end up having 2 variables that are very close in name, but they're misspelled. So then you got bugs. One code's referencing one, one's referencing the other. I like to keep everything local and scope to a screen, or in this case, local and scope to a block of code. I think that's even better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that text box and I'm going to look at the text, but I need to split this up and make it an array or a collection or a table. How do we do that? Well, we use split. If you ever needed the reverse, you would say join, and it would join everything up. No, that's not right. I think that might be C sharp. It is concat. That's what it is, concat. And then there's also a function called concatenate, which sort of does what a ampersand does when you're trying to splice two strings together. All right, so we're going to split this up based on char 10. If you look at the ASCII code characters, that is a line feed. What's a line feed? Well, it comes down to typing on typewriters. When you hit the bar, what it would do, it would do a carriage return, which means the thing that's typing all the characters would the carriage return would make it go all the way to the left, and then a line feed would move the paper up one. So that's where you get that. And if you want a carriage return, you say char 13. But what I've noticed is char 10 is the better of the two to use, at least within Power Apps. Yeah, would be using update context be a better solution? That is a great question, Justin. What I have found, I've tried to do that. And some cases it works, sometimes it doesn't. You could put a collection, theoretically, into a local variable, but realize you wouldn't be able to use any type of collection functions. That's what I found. Um, but you know what? Let's try this out. It's a great question. So I want to see if it works great here or not. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something like this, and I'm going to call this lists to create. And then over here, I'll do the for all. Okay. Now we do need an ending curly brace, and we do need a semicolon. What else do we need here? We have a for all, but we're not doing anything with it. So let's go in here and let's put in, we need a comma there. Let's put in a value. Value equals this record dot value. I think that's it. Now, what I might do, I think that's it. We just need the list name. Put into a collection. Okay, then we've got this collection here. And hopefully we can do a for all on that. And what we could do is we could be calling this really right here. That'd probably be more efficient anyway. But I'm curious about, I want to answer this question for you, Justin. All right, so I should have created that local variable. And technically, it probably isn't a collection. It's probably a table, which are very similar. But with a table, you can't really use collection functions on it. Look at that. That looks great. Okay. So we did get that. It's saying it's a table value. Now, what would happen if I were to take this and I were to say something along the lines of, I'm going to patch. I'm going to patch it. And I'm going to say defaults. And I want to put something in here and say value Darren Darren's list. Put a semicolon there. And of course, I always like to indent my stuff. It makes more sense to my brain that way. All right, so we're going to patch in, and patching isn't necessarily a collection thing. Let me see if I can create, add one to it. I don't see any errors. Okay. So now what we should see is an item at the end of it called Darren's list, and I do not see that. Okay, I'm gonna try it again here. And we'll add my thing there. Okay, what if we were to do a collect on it? If we could do a collect, we know that it really is a collection, right? And we got LOC list to create, and we'll go in here and we'll say value, and we'll say Darren's list. Something there, save, run it. I don't see it. Now, in the past, I've gotten errors by doing that. Okay. Now, could we theoretically go through this with a for all? That's something that we might want to test now, because that might be a good question. You guys might be wondering about that. So let's do something like a for all. Say LOC list to create, and then inside here, what I want to say is notify. With all the AI, you think it would just like understand what I want to do. Notify. And in here we'll say this record, which gives you the current record within your loop. And I'll say dot value. Let's see if this works. Okay. You can use a local variable that's been set up as a table or collection, and you can loop through it. Isn't patch doing an update to an item? Yes and no. A patch will either add an item or update an item within a data source or a collection. And it looks like I'm making a weird face, doesn't it? Let me change up my video. Okay, I'm going to hide my video, and then I'm going to restart it all. Turn off my Nikon, turn it back on, plug it, plug it back in. And then I'll go back into my settings. For some reason, this camera does this to me every once in a while. Okay, I'm going to click that and then back. Did not select the right video. Okay. There we go. Cool. And then Ben says, modifies or creates one or more records in a data source or merges records outside of a data source. Yeah, very good. Now you can patch collections. All right, so that shows us all the things that we can do there. Now, what I would want to do is to take this code and put it in here. I think that's probably much more efficient. And I don't need to do that. And then here, we're going to say this record dot value. All right. Now, I think something would be even more efficient if we were to pass in this array or this collection into the Power Automate flow. And instead of Power Apps making a call for every single list, we might be creating 50 lists, you know? So it'd probably be faster if you just give it the full 50 and it just loops in there. Um, so maybe eventually I'll add that. And I cannot believe my video did that thing again. Gee whiz. Nothing's ever easy, I tell you. I might need to replace my capture card, perhaps. There we go. All right. You could use clear-collect and use the context variable as the table. Okay. Little technical question regarding your streaming setup. Can you select your output signal as an input for Teams or Zoom call? That may be possible. I've never tried that. I know I do stream from Zoom, like a workshop sometimes, over to YouTube or Facebook or something. But yeah, I'd have to look into that. But then we delete the purpose of not having global collections. So never mind. Yeah. Yeah, whenever I go to my data sources, I really don't like to see like 20 different collections over here. If I do see a collection, I want it to be an integral part of the whole app and used on many screens. You know what I mean? So yeah. Okay. So you know what? Let's try this out. And then at the end, I want to do a launch again, but I'm not going to launch on individual lists. What I want to do is go to site contents, and I'm going to take that. Okay. And we're going to say LOC SharePoint site URL, which should give us all of that. Okay. So let's add that to it right there. All right. All right, so this might take a hot minute because we've got seven lists to create here. Create these lists. Watch the champagne bubbles go. I'm just glad if it we don't have any errors when it's done. Mm-hmm. I don't see any more champagne bubbles. Oh, it should be pulling up SharePoint for me. Now, did I use launch or navigate? I did use launch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that button there. Copy paste. Okay. I'm going to call this launch. I'm a little confused why it didn't. Now, maybe it did, and I didn't realize it because I already had it open. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out. I'll launch it. And it works. Very cool. Yeah, so that works. I don't need that in there. And I don't need You know what would be cool is if I got all of the SharePoint lists. Oh, get all the SharePoint lists for no wait, all the sites that I have access to. And then that would be sort of nifty, wouldn't it? Let's see if we can do that. All right. All right. Have you guys ever seen Iron Man, Marvel movies? Iron Man had this assistant called Jarvis, and I got a little Jarvis up here. Um, his name is Perplexity. All right. How do I get a full list, all the SharePoint sites in a Microsoft tenant that I have access to? That makes it easier. You know what? I'm going to show you guys what I'm working with. I absolutely love Perplexity. It searches the web and comes back with the best answers. Okay. Gotta spell SharePoint right. All right. So we want to do this in a Power Automate flow and return the listing to a Power Apps application that called it. Let's see what it comes up with. Yeah, we're going to need an HTTP action like we did before. Ooh, but it's not going to be a SharePoint one. Okay, we're getting a little complicated here. And if you guys are interested in that, I'm going to share it with you guys, which thankfully Perplexity allows me to do. And if you want, I could convert this into a page, like a blog, create a blog entry like this. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Justin. So that's actually what it tells us to do. Look, graph. And it shows the sources that it's getting this information from. Okay. And it's writing that. And I will share that with you guys. Let's see here. Let's generate an image, an illustration. All right, so let's go. I sort of want to create it here. Because sometimes I got a hard time with a Power Apps realizing there's a flow out there that I need to talk to. So I'm going to add a new flow. And I'm going to say blank. Hopefully, yeah, give me my trigger. That's what I would expect. And I need to add a new step, and I'm going to type in HTTP. There we go. Now this is a premium connector. Now, do we have any other HTTPs? Connectors, let's see here. Publish this. Here's the link. I'm pasting that over there. That's just to show you what it created for me. Created like a little blog entry here. Create a flow. There's the Graph API. adding an HTTP action. Okay. So, I mean, that looks like what we got here. Okay. So I'm going to click on that one. And we're going to need to do a get. And the URI is going to be this guy. Authentication tenant. I think I'm going to try to go back. The endpoint will return all SharePoint sites in the tenant you have access to. Configure the action. So we got the get, we got the URI. Now I don't see. Oh, there's the authentication. Gee whiz. Authentication to Active Directory OAuth. All right. Now we got more stuff to fill out. Okay, now we've got an audience. Okay, we've got that. Ooh, I need my tenant ID. Okay, let me see if I can figure that out real quick. I'm not sure if I need to go to Azure to find out my tenant ID. I think if you have, look at this. It has my environment GUID. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, it's saying to go to AAD Portal Azure. Hmm. Okay. Guys, bear with me. I got to log in and authenticate and all that fun stuff. Okay. There we go. And sometimes it doesn't appear. Set the phone without a password, change password, update security information. Okay, let's try this. There we go. Okay, so once you're logged into Azure, Active Directory. And I think now it's called identity. There's my tenant ID. Very good. Okay, so we have that. And now that we have that, audience, I do have the audience in there. And So its instructions for Perplexity is leading me to believe that it thinks that I'm done here. Now, do I have all? Now I need a client ID and I need a secret. Okay, so for the HTTP step, I need provide a client ID and a secret. I think for some reason authentication type, a credential type. Let me see if there's anything else. Um, authority. Okay. Let's see what it says here. Register a new application. Really? Okay. Go into portal.azure.com. Okay. Let me show you what I'm doing. So you guys just don't look at me looking up at a screen. Okay. So I need to create an app. Okay. Register an application. Okay. So I'm going to do this. There we go. I think it's going to be that one. Oh, documentation. Okay. So let me show you guys this, what you'll need to do. Okay. So apparently we need to go into Azure. I'm sorry, Intra. Find that. Intra ID. Okay. And I'm going to go down to, it's under Manage. You see that? Manage. And then App Registrations. So I've gone there. Okay. We create a new registration. And I'm going to call this Power Apps Graph API calls. But really, it's Power Automate. Okay. Who can use this application? Accounts in the organization. Personal from Skype. Okay. Okay, that's optional. So I'm going to hit register. Oh my goodness. Mary says, isn't this a bit too much? Can't you just use the send HTTP request to SharePoint? Um, no need to authenticate then. I just found that there is a send an HTTP request to SharePoint action. Well, if you look at what we've been doing in all these other flows, that's what we have been doing. Okay. So if we go in here, if we're creating a SharePoint site, a list, so on and so forth, see, send an HTTP request to SharePoint. Now, if you guys have any documentation that shows how I can, like this thing right here, web lists. What about sites? Let me do a search there. Yeah, I'm going to agree, Marius, that would be simpler. So I'm going to say sites, be, okay, let's see. 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 SharePoint. Let's see what comes up. Okay. Get out of there. Don't want to look at that right now. Let's go into here. Okay. And what I'm going to try to do, if it's going to allow me to, and we're going to say, I'm just going to call it Graph API. And I hope it allows me to save it. And I'm just going to put that in there. Hopefully it allows me to save it, just in case if I want to come back. Okay. It is saving it now. Okay, Justin, I see that. Very good. Okay, yeah, let's try to use the the SharePoint one here. I would like to use the SharePoint low vector to find out all the sites. Okay. So at least now it's still saving it. Frustrating. Huh. Get SPO sites by filter. Okay, I got some good information here. Oh, this is great. Okay. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to add a new one. I called that one Graph API. Very good. I'm going to create a new flow. Yeah, thanks guys for suggesting that. I didn't mean to. I just thought because it suggested it that we weren't able to do it with the SharePoint one. All right. Okay. Okay, so I need SharePoint site URL. Okay. And then down here, enter custom value. And there we go. Now, what's all this? Oh, environment variables. Okay, very good. That's cool. All right, and then we are going to get a get. That's good. The URI is going to be this. And then for key, we're going to say accept. And then for the value, we're going to put this in. And in the body, we got some JSON code that we can just paste in there. So we're only going to look at 5,000 of the lists. And yeah, thanks for that, Justin. If the directions it's giving me doesn't work, I'll try to use yours. Now, if you have a link to an article or something, water or whiskey. Yeah. Arizona tea. Not to be confused with twisted tea. All right. Now, one, I did release a video today in Spanish. I'd love for you to check it out. Go look at my recent videos. You'll see it. I released it this morning. And tell me if that's good Spanish or not. So I used a service to dub over my voice in Spanish. Okay. So we've got this sort field URL. I really don't care about sorting it with the URL, but this request will return information about all the site collections in your tenant. I don't want that. What did I tell it? I need to find out all the sites. No, that's my find out all the lists. No, I do need the sites because I want to provide a drop down at the top so they can create lists based on which of them. Okay, so I'm gonna take that out. So we'll use this. You may need to make multiple stuff. There's more than 5,000 sites. I can't imagine how more than 5,000 sites. After making this request, you'll need to parse the JSON response to extract the site information. Okay, follow actions to process the data using the flow. Remember that to use this API, you need to have necessary permissions in your, I would imagine that. Maria says, I love it today, enjoying the show, hand pink waving. I don't know what that is. Here in Restream, I can't see emojis, so maybe that's what you're doing there. All right, so let's try this out. Now I need to return this. So I'm going to say what? Okay, so I'm imagining what we'll do is we'll say power apps, boom, respond to a power app or flow. Okay, and we have text, yes, no, file, email. I'm sure it'll be text. It's going to be JSON. Hmm. So if I go in here and say site collection, I'm going to call it JSON. And I'm going to go down here and say body. Okay. All I have is the HTTP SharePoint action that gives me body. Need to send list of SharePoint sites back as JSON. Parse it out in Power Apps. Okay, this is just to show you what I'm seeing here. Now, I did share this link with you guys, so you can get up my full history of what all I'm doing here. Add a parse JSON action. Okay, that's what I was missing. I'll put one in the middle. Parse JSON. Okay, what's my content? I would imagine it's the body. Okay, very nice. Use the body output there for a good schema. You'll need to provide a schema that matches the response structure. If you're not sure about the exact schema, you can use a sample payload to generate it. Next, select action, use output from, okay. So what I want to know is this is the URI I'm using to find out the listing of SharePoint sites. Generate the values needed to provide for the parse JSON action. Let's see what it comes up with there. I saw it. I like it. Wish you could make them all like this. And maybe I'll go over to YouTube so I can see what you guys are talking about. All right. So we have got. This is interesting. This is the JSON. So it's like ask and you shall receive, huh? There we go. All right, I'm going to go with that. And then down here, what I'm going to do is say, okay. After parse JSON action, you use a select action to format the data as needed. Okay, that explains it. Data operation select. Okay. Use the value. Okay, I'll use value. And in the map, okay, we have the URL. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see this a little better. All right, so we got URL, we have title. Template. We have site ID. That's great information to retrieve. This is nice. Web ID. And there we go. Finally, use the respond to Power Apps action. Okay. And type, and then it says array. Add output name SharePoint sites. Type array. Okay, what I'm going to do here is going to go find select, which I'm not seeing. Huh. Not see. So I just told it, hey, I don't see an array. Let's see what it comes back with. AI, you're correct. There is no array. There are a few ways to work around this limitation. Effectively, return an array like data. Return as JSON string. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. You can convert your array to a JSON string in Power Automate and return it as text value. Power Apps, you can then parse it. Yeah, very good. Power Apps and Power Automate use the JSON function to convert your array to a JSON string. Okay. Now, I'm unclear if we actually needed this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to expression. And I'm going to say JSON. Boom. Okay. And I'm going to try dynamic content. Body. Ooh, okay. Body. And then we have value. Okay. Look at the select output. I guess I will. it didn't keep my stuff. JSON. And then I will say, so we do have this select. Let's do output. Let's see if that works. Okay, apparently there is a response action. Why didn't it take that? Okay, so now I'm gonna go down here. And this is output. I guess I have to click OK. Okay. Okay. There is something called response here. And it's a premium. If we're using SharePoint, we probably don't have a premium connector. So I'm going to use this. Let's see how this goes here. I probably needed to give it a better name. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Let's see, or use HTTP response action at the end to send all output from the SharePoint, blah, 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 the app. You can work with the data. Okay, so Justin, I have a question for you, which is, let me pull this back up. Is it the premium connector that I was just looking at? I got to go back in here to rename it anyway, but so I'm going to call this list all SharePoint sites. That's the name I want. So instead of doing this, response. Okay. I'm going to assume there's a response to a request. Huh. Okay. But it is a premium connector. Okay. So I'm going to try to stay away from premium connectors if I can. Now, if I start doing stuff with Dataverse and whatever, then I know that anybody's watching the content has a premium, and then I probably would use more premium connectors. I'm going to hit save there. Okay. It is saved. Exit out. And I think what I'd like to do here is go get a drop-down list. And I do not like the modern drop-down list, at least not yet. Now, when this screen loads up, I want to go into unvisible, and I want to call that thing. So I'm going to say update context, LOC, SharePoint sites. We do need a curly brace. Go. Okay. List. Did it not rename it? Refresh. Yeah, there we go. List all. Okay. And it's probably upset that I haven't provided the values. I think we're only passing in. Are we passing in anything? Yeah, why are we even passing that in? Um, it's not used anywhere. Oh, the site address. That would make sense. We probably need to pass in the root site URL. That does make sense. Okay. And then over on this screen, before we got here, there we go. We can get that. And we should pass over. Do I have a comma there? I do. Okay. We need an LOC SharePoint root URL text. And I'm going to copy that just in case we don't create a site. We just need to create some lists. Okay. And I'm going to click on that. There we go. And then over here on visible, I could say LOC SharePoint root URL. There we go. This is looking better. And so I'll get all that. Now here I'm going to use a clear collect. Say all SP sites. LOC SP sites. We'll say JSON. I think we got a. Is it parse JSON? Yeah, there we go. And then we need to reference that. Okay, there we go. Cannot use a untyped object value in this context. Okay. Well, what I want to do filter. I want to filter a collection. And the collection has records. And in the records, I want to have we'll need URL, type, template, site ID, web ID. Okay, so we're going to have a URL. Title. No, we don't want quotes around our field names. We do need commas. Okay. Template. Boom. So let's do site ID. That's going to be a string. And we got this web ID here. Okay. Now, what's the problem? Let's say false. All right. Now, what did I just do? These square brackets signifies a collection. Okay. So filter can work on a collection, a data source, a table value. Okay. So here's a table, and then here's one record. I'm providing the schema information for this. Okay, I'm going to put that there. And instead of this, I'm going to put this filter there. Now, I don't want any rows. I just want the schema information. So that's why I do a filter with a false literal value there. Okay, so that should set it up so that when we get to this untyped thing here, it should give us what we want. But obviously, it's not allowing us to do this. Let me parse JSON. I think it gave me code. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not here. Let's see. Dot. Yeah, we're not getting anything there. Um, Let me make sure I refresh this flow. Okay. Still have an error. Parse JSON. Let's see the other I think we have parameters, maybe not. Cannot use an untyped object. Okay, so the parse JSON function returns an untyped object, which can cause issues when trying to access specific properties or use the result in certain functions. To resolve this, you need to explicitly convert the parse JSON data to the appropriate data type. I'm going to show you. So instead of doing that, property name. Okay, but we have an array. Their message was something like a type. Text, value, Boolean, depending upon the data type. For complement, you need to handle nested objects and arrays. Okay. If you're working with the collection or table adjacent data, you might need to use for all. Okay. That makes sense. Nice. For all. Boom. So we'll go through all those, and I'm going to say as give it an alias there, and then what we're going to do something like this, and then we'll say really all this. That's why it was so important to set up that schema information. All right, so now hopefully I'll say my dot URL. Okay, I'm gonna wrap text around it. Gee whiz. It looks like that might work. All right. This should be interesting. All right, so I'm gonna take that collection and I'm gonna put it in that drop down. And look at this. We have the title of the SharePoint list. Now, in order for that code to run, I need to go to a different screen and then come back. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to sit, well, maybe I'll use a different, let's do canvas size. Interesting. Let's do, there we go. Did I click on the wrong one? No, I think I clicked on the right one. It's just taking some time. Oh boy. Title wasn't changed to title. Okay, thank you for letting me know that, Ben. I had no idea it would take that long. I'm going to go over to flows, and we've got list all SharePoint. I'm going to click on this link, and it's still running for 51 seconds. Okay, I'm going to click on that one. Let's see what's going on here. Wow, what is going on? Okay. Okay. At least it hasn't failed yet. It's taking a long time. Okay. Well, 2 minutes. Man, it's a long time to just get the list of the SharePoint lists. I mean, the SharePoint sites within a tenant. I just did get an email, and I've got air trapping within my Power Apps application. So maybe that's what that email is about. Yep, that was it. I'm going to show you guys my air trapping. I think you might like this, guys. The server did not receive a timely response. Yeah, no kidding. Now, how did that email get sent out? Did you guys like that? Over here in app, you can go into on air. And I put all this air trapping logic, and you can access an all airs collection. Gets all the information. I loop through it, and I throw it into an email down here using string interpolation. That's what creates that email. Okay. Create site, create lists. Okay. So this is going to go to that other screen. I'm going to say the SharePoint site URL. Well, I'm going to try it again, guys. Click. See the champagne bubbles. Okay, it's time to complain to Jarvis here. It's taking too long. Long time, then time's out. I think it's just going to happen again. So I'm going to go over to the flow here. I'm going to refresh and see what we got. Wow, that first one is still running after 5 minutes. Sort of, you know what I want to do? I could create a SharePoint site. No, I'm sorry, a SharePoint list, and I can drop all those values into the SharePoint list. Could do that. Get a copy of the air email. Yeah, it's amazing. So if you guys join my community over here, you can download this whole template that I'm building. This template has it all. Now, I will show you the code again if you want to screenshot it if you want. Um, but this is the community, Power Apps templates. So this is a group I created so that we could build a template together. You guys could tell me what features that you want, and either you guys could provide them, you could give me the code, I could put it in there, and then I release them here. So you go to start here, and you'll see, boom, here's the latest one. And here's all the videos sequentially in making all this stuff happen here. So let me bring this up. Is it still going? It probably timed out again. But yeah, what you do, there's a lot to it that needs to be explained. I'm going to create a video for everybody in that community. But if you go into on air, so I have a with block that grabs several things here. Okay. And then I collect. Now I go through, this is a Power Apps collection that you can use here. Not just anywhere, but here in app on air. So I go through all that, and it doesn't have all these things. I grab the user's email and name, and I grab that up here with the with block. Because what I eventually want to do is I want to put all this information into a database table or a SharePoint list. Yeah. And it looks like I need to fix my video camera again. Well, this has been a strange day for me. Okay. Back over to video. That should be right. There we go. Cool. So that's the reason I did it that way. I defined all this stuff. And really, we should put in here like the application name, some other things, because you could imagine a bunch of Power Apps application could be using a single SharePoint site, you know. And this is what creates the table here. This is just HTML. And with this $sign, you're able to use string interpolation to put in pretty much Power Apps code. So these are field names that are in where does it go through this? Oh yeah, these are single. Okay, yeah. But whenever we do a loop, I go through that collection of errors. And so these are just regular HTML tables type of stuff. And that's what it is. And I include all the documentation I looked at to create all this. Okay. So I'm going to go back over to Power Automate, and the stuff is still running. Really? There's got to be something wrong in there. Yeah, let's do this in Power Automate. Let's see. We got content. New designer can't be used for this yet. That's fine. I don't like the new designer. Okay, so we get all of these. And let me see here. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. So we get all this. We parse the JSON. And maybe this wasn't set up right. So maybe something's going on with that. But we do get the body. I wonder if we. I do. Yeah, I do the. Okay, I did all that. I took the value. Yeah. Um, okay. So this is something I'm probably gonna have to tackle, and you guys don't want to sit here and see me trying to figure this out for an hour or two. Um, I'm not as strong as I'd like to be in Power Automate, so this is a good um growing opportunity for me to learn more about Power Automate and to overcome the challenges that present themselves there. But I'm really happy that that we're building this because I tell you what, that's been the one big frustration I've had with Power Apps is like if I got a Power Apps application and I deploy it, well, those SharePoint lists are coming over, especially if it's a different tenant, you know. Yeah. Thanks for the link and the walkthrough. You're welcome. And so something I will share with you guys. So this one, the templates group, this is $25 a month. Now, if you go over to this one's completely free, and also my Microsoft Stack community is free as well. Where's the flow failing? Yeah, if you can help me debug that, would be great. So what's happening is it never ends. Look at this. This has been going for 12 minutes. This one's going for 8 minutes. So it's not really failing. It's just hung. It's like hung up. It's froze or however you want to say that. Now I wonder if I can like stop it from running because yeah, we'll see here first. We'll see if we can figure it out here in a moment. Okay. All right, now it's going to give me the modern one. Okay. So, um, let's get rid of that. See, it's still running right here. I can cancel this. Okay, that's good. I can cancel it. Want to go back. Okay, it's canceled. Now I should be able to go in there and look at it, right? Maybe take out the parse JSON and select it. Okay, so I'll try that. Okay, and the thing is still running. Oh, yeah. Here's the information here, guys. If you want to look at this. Okay. Okay. Maybe take out the parse JSON and select and see how the request on its run successfully. Now, Jeremy, give me some more information there. So when you say, yeah, there's an issue with the request, let me go in here. Let's edit it. Okay, get out of that. So there's something must be wrong here. So Ben says, I think that's happening downstream. Application JSON, no metadata. Okay, and we do a get. Hmm. Okay, Ben asks, are you missing? I don't think I was doing a lot of API work yesterday, or a lot of automate flows. I don't remember putting a slash there. Now I do find looks like Matthew Devaney is going to help me out here, and 11 more sources. But let's see, based on here's some key points. The flow may still be executing even though the user. Okay, so one thing I could do, I think one of you guys just mentioned that. Really? We had a slash before that? Um, maybe for this we'll say 100 sort field URI. Okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look at, let's say we create a SharePoint site. I'm going to edit. What's up with this blue? What? Hopefully it's not going to make me authenticate with that. That's weird. Blue. Okay. What? What is going on? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We can try some different things. I appreciate you guys helping me out here. Now I'm gonna. Oh my goodness, it's still loading it. What? Maybe this is from the big outage that happened yesterday. Oh man. Let me look at this one. It comes up with this blue stuff. Okay. So the top 5. Yeah. I don't have that many sites. Maybe 50 sites. Okay. Okay. So the bluists. Try the filter in URI I suggested. Okay. Now I need to go. Would you be able to paste the one you were suggesting? Because I think it might have been a while ago. So, Justin, you had a different, you are here, get SPO sites by filter. So, Justin, I'm looking for your, huh. Okay. So instead of this, I'm going to copy that, bring up my Notepad++ and dump it somewhere. Okay. So what you've got, and I'm going to bring it up and show it. API search query text equals content class STS site. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's the only thing I need to save or what. Something I think I am going to do is instead of having this just sitting in the screen on visible, I'm going to select, I'm going to cut that out and put it behind a button. Okay. Now, we'll need to go in here and refresh some of this stuff. We don't need graph APIs. refresh that. And let's let her rip. Nothing in there. Okay. Champagne bubbles. Content query, content class, STS site. Okay, so it looks like I typed it in there properly. Oh, I need single quotes in there? Oh, I see. I've got a single quote. Where is this? Right after the text equals. Okay, so I need a single quote here and there. Yeah, thanks, Justin. This is great. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and run this again. And I'm going to resubmit. Oh, cool. Bad request. The select action is expecting an array, but it received null. You should ensure that the input select action is an array. Check the previous steps in the flow to identify the array should be coming from and adjust the input accordingly. Okay. Okay. Let's go look at the select here. Let's edit this. Okay, so we're getting null. You know what? I probably don't want all of this, right? What do you guys think about that? So this would be here. We wouldn't need that. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I mean, hmm. Yeah, I think I need to do more research because I feel like I'm like the items. Like, what can I do something like this? So this one, let's take that one out. All right, we'll save that. Okay, so Justin says, might want to remove headers and body. Okay, so up here, you want me to take all this stuff out? Also, in last flow run, the output of the HTTP request. Okay. Automatically use that one. Let's see what happens here. And it goes all the way down to select. And we got null. Okay, guys. Well, I feel like I'm not equipped to do a lot of debugging with Power Automate, so I'll have to figure that out and share my findings with you after I figure it out. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining. I do have some interesting stuff here. Let's check this out.
Ingredient for the hundreds of people that we've helped dominate in their organization. With this one skill, you're able to simplify processes for countless tasks like tracking leads, doing inspections, logging attendance, booking desks in a shared office, generating reports, tracking employee performance, and the list goes on. If you have a project that you need to get done, or you're an IT professional or a developer, or if you plan to eventually do some freelancing work with Microsoft Power Apps, I am literally the only person you need to accomplish your goals. Spreadsheets and all the old ways of doing things are becoming redundant, and the people who are able to build Power Apps are going to accelerate their professional career so much faster than everyone else who's okay being average. I have over 20 years experience as a software developer and have been working in Power Apps for over 3 years. We have lots of course material for you, but if you're eager to accelerate your expertise with Power Apps at a much faster pace and want to work directly with me, this is what me and my team are going to do for you. Number one, we're going to figure out exactly what projects and skills you're working on and the overall end goal. Number two, we're going to get clear on exactly what data sources are needed for your projects. If it's a particular project with a deadline, we're going to work with you to make sure that you meet that deadline. And number four, we're going to work with you to make sure that you master the platform. So not only can you finish any projects that you're currently working on, but the projects that come up in the future. And you might want to take those skills and become a freelancer in the future. If that sounds like something that you're interested in and you want to expedite the process of being able to build apps that can literally be used for years, and you want to be an important asset to your organization and any future companies you work for, click the button below and we can have a 15-minute chat about what you're needing and how we can help. So you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, gotta hurry, click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video.